I'm always like, this is cheaper than divorce. So like, and if you want to get laid, you should talk about your shit.
So what is sex therapy?
Sex therapy is just like traditional talk therapy, but you're coming in to talk to me about your sexual health. And we're talking about your family, we're talking about your relationships, your health, your physical health. And then what gets deeper with me is we're going to talk about your sexual history. So, when did you learn about sex, your experiences, if you had trauma, your body? I work with a lot of doctors too. So, I have all of that component going on in the room at the same time, where in traditional therapy, if you're just talking about depression, you're not talking about all of that.
Is it, it seems to me like there's a lot of baggage. Are people bringing a lot of baggage to this?
I mean, I don't know a functioning adult that doesn't have baggage, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can attest. I can attest. I think we all can.
Yeah, a lot of and it's funny because people will show up and be like, "Oh, it's just our relationship that's the issue." When we start to kind of peel back the layers, it's relationship, it's your first sexual experience, it's how your parents didn't talk to you about sex or your primary caregiver. It's going to church. It's all of these things play a role. So,
Is it really about sex at the end of the day? Or is it about something else that is manifesting itself through sex?
it's both. It's both. So sometimes it is really about sex. Like sometimes, like I have a lot of people I see that come in that have sexual pain. And so generally a person with a vulva, vagina, like if something is inserted, whether it's a penis, a toy, a tampon, anything like that, and it's painful, it's not supposed to be painful. Right. So there is a physical component that we need to make sure everything is okay. So then they come back and they're like, okay, I've resolved the physical stuff, but I still don't want to have sex, or I'm still very scared, or it still hurts. Well, it doesn't hurt because there's something physically wrong. There's something going on with how you're thinking about it. So that's where I come into play. And we then do a lot of digging.
What's usually kind of the reason that people come to see you?
Yeah, so I have a caseload about, 40% are couples, and then the rest are individuals that are struggling with sexual pain, no desire, understanding relationship after kids or like with smaller children. Or their kids are leaving and they're like, what the fuck do we do now? Because their lives have revolved around said children. And they're like, we didn't have time to have sex. And now what do we do? We don't even know. It's like starting fresh again. And then I have a few clients that are struggling with orgasmic issues, erectile dysfunction issues. So I see kind of a wide variety, but it tends to be a lot of women struggling with sexual health or couples.
Is this an easy thing for people to talk about? Like, are they ready and willing to go, or are they like, you gotta push and push and push and push?
I would say, like, if you're an individual coming in and you seek me out, like, which tends to happen in the middle of the night. So I, like, you can check the time of when your emails come in, right? And I often get emails reaching out for help after 11 p.m. Like if it's between like 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., I'm like, okay, shit went down, and they're freaking out and they're on a Google search, or they're talking to people that they know and they get referred. So then they come in, and sometimes it's, the first session or two, super easy because we're just getting to know each other. And I tell every single person, this is just a chill interview. Like, do you like me? And I need to kind of like you too. Like, we have to have a vibe, or you're not going to want to spill your guts to me. Right. So we have to check that out. Now, if it's a couple coming in, and generally with a couple, it's one person is driving the bus saying, we got to go do this. And then the other person in the couple is usually like, just sits there for a while, and it takes a much longer time. for me to get that person to start to talk. So that happens frequently.
Yeah. Is it okay? I'm going to throw general big aspersions out there, right? Like I can just imagine myself as a man being there like,
yeah,
I don't know. I would be really kind of standoffish. You know, I can picture myself in your office being like,
oh yeah,
well, we're here because we wanted to come. I think we should just have more sex, right? Like, I'm not saying that's what I would say, but I can just picture like that's what I'm imagining happening.
Yeah. And so that you're not imagining incorrectly. Like that is true. It's like, oh, why are we here? Why are we spending all this money? Right. And that's because it's an investment, right? We talk about that too. Like you're investing in your time. And I'm always like, this is cheaper than divorce. So like, and if you want to get laid, you should talk about your shit. Like this is, I mean, it's kind of easy to like when we lay it all out there, then I can be like, okay, like, let's talk about, wait, who taught you how to have sex? And everyone's like, deer in headlights. I'm like, yeah, no shit, right? No one taught you how to have sex.
It's so fascinating to me that it's a huge part of our lives and that we don't know anything about it. I never learned anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because, so if you grew up in the States, or if your listeners did, like, there are only, I could be off, but I think there's only 17 states that require medically accurate sex ed to be taught.
So that's why we know nothing about it.
We know nothing about it because we don't teach it in schools.
Yeah, I just remember the class that I took, which was basically like, all don't have sex, and this is what happens to you. You're pregnant or you get a disease, and those are your only two options, right? Like, unless you're... Yeah. So I'm married, 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
I have always been shocked at how little my wife seemed to know about her own body.
Yeah, because we don't know about that either.
And that's where I should rephrase in the sense, not that I'm shocked at how little she knows about it, but how little she was taught. Like nobody, no older family member ever told you, like, this is how pregnancy works. This is how sex works. Like, that's kind of, it's like giving somebody a big piece of equipment and being like, here you go. And then just walking away. Like, here's a car. Right. I'm not teaching you how to drive it or anything about it. Just here's the car and I'm leaving.
This is so typical, right? Like, okay, we've been together forever. And I'm like, do you know where your clitoris is? Right? Do you know what it looks like? Oh, and I should have I have a 3D clitoris in my office. I'm at home today in my home office. But like, we go through anatomy. But if you think about it, what you just said, okay, her family didn't teach her about it because they don't have the education, right? So remember, just a second ago, they're not being taught. And then if you think about the boomers, right? So like your parents, your grandparents, they don't talk about shit, right? Like, let alone like, let's talk about your pleasure.
Right.
Like, they don't know what to do with that.
I could not imagine my dad walking in and being like, son, you're 13. Let me tell you how your penis works.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say, I hope you do that for your kids.
I don't know if I would tell them like, look, I mean, I don't have any tips to like help with satisfaction necessarily. But I'd be like, look, man, you got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do this.
Yeah.
Like we could kind of change that a little bit, I feel like, for them.
100%. 100%.
Are most of your clients that come in as couples, are they are they new together? Are they like how many years into it are they? Like, are they having problems early in the marriage relationship or are they having problems later in it?
You know, it generally, so I'm going to generalize, but it's usually a decade or plus in.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Because generally at that, like, okay, let's if we're doing like a traditional, life isn't super crazy. Like you get married, you're in the honeymoon stage, right? Like you're hormonally very excited about that person when you meet them and you're excited about getting married and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe you kind of hang out for a couple years and then you have a kid, right? And then shit's crazy. And then you're like, let's do it again, right? Because, you know, I mean, I didn't because we're one and done, but like then your life is crazy. And then, so we're thinking, okay, you're 6 years, 7 years in, and then things are finally like, chilling. Like your kids are sleeping, like they're not in diapers anymore, right? So your stress level's coming down. And then you're like, hey, partner, like, what's this about now?
Right.
But you've gone through all of this and kind of hyper focused on raising tiny humans.
Can you get that back? Because in some sense, I was thinking about this the other day, is like, my wife and I met when we were late 20s. I'm a totally different person than I was 10
100%.
years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is this a normal thing that couples go through, or do couples just grow apart and I'm not the person that you were when we met and we didn't grow together?
I think you can so I don't want to say get it back, but you can start a new chapter, right? Or a new book, essentially, to use the analogy, is that in the beginning, when I was talking about, like, when you meet someone, your hormones are generally shifting and changing, and you're so excited, right? You plan everything around seeing that person, right? Everything is about that relationship, that whole, like, oh my God, we're so in love, right? And then at like 6 months in, it peters out. Like, you kind of get to stability and the relationship changes. We're never going to get those new relationship hormones back. It's physically impossible because you know her, right? You have seen her birth a baby, right? Or you have heard her in the bathroom, right? Like, there are some non-sexy things that happen in relationship, and you can't just erase all of that. So, but you can be intentional about being curious and finding new things, because you don't know everything about her. She keeps stuff in her mind. Thank God, right? Like, if my husband could read my mind, we would not be together. Right?
I feel like that's the same for everybody.
Yes.
Right?
It would be so fucked. Yeah, like, and not in a good way.
Does it work?
It can work, but I can only do so much. Right? So I always say, I can give you the education. I can help you become comfortable with talking about it. I can give you scripts to talk about it if you want to do that. I can give you resource after resource. You have to make time to spend together, right? Like, stop sitting in your spots on the couch, right? Like, sit together. And people don't do that. So then they're with me for a while. I'm like, hey, did you guys, like, sit together? And they're like, no. They're like, we know. And they're like, we know. And they, like, roll their eyes and they keep coming back week after week.
Can people just be okay with it, right? Like, is it totally fine for somebody, like, look, we haven't had sex in 10 years and that's cool?
If both parties are okay, that's cool.
Would you say that most of the clients, and generalizing a lot,
sure,
are they normal people? Like, this is all normal in the grand scheme of things. Like, this is a normal couple they're like, you're not ever like, okay, he wants something really strange, or she's kind of crazy. Like, would you say, oh, they're pretty normal, actually?
Yeah, and that's a question everyone wants to know, right? Like, are we normal? I'm like, yeah, you're normal. It's typical. Like, you're gonna go through phases where your sex life is shit, right? And then you're gonna go through phases where you're like, this is amazing.
That's life, right?
It is, right? But for some reason, we have a very hard time of applying that idea to sex. Like, it has to be this way and it has to be this many times, right? I've worked with multi-millionaire CEOs, and then I've worked with people who are literally living from paycheck to paycheck. So it has nothing to do with your status in life or the money you're making. It has to do with, okay, what's your effort? What's going on? What do you need in your relationship? And can you communicate that?
Are you ready for some harder / listener submitted questions?
Oh, listeners, yes, I am.
Oh, these are
so
the good
excited.
ones. I know.
I love it.
Who's the bigger problem, men or women?
Men.
We are?
Yeah.
Oh, I really thought it was going to be you guys.
And okay, so can I give more?
Yeah.
It's like, how is this like a because we live in a patriarchy. We live in a patriarchy. Everything is centered around men, and we are all very comfortable with that. Like we were talking about before, women's bodies are not researched, right? So no one understands women's bodies, right? It's just now starting. They're just now starting to research menopause. like in a good way, like a significant way. We're emotional, which is lovely. Men are as well, right? And obviously we're being very heteronormative in this conversation, but so this goes with anybody, but men think, and again, generalization, think, okay, well, I get an erection and I want to have sex and it should be that easy. And that's the problem. It's not that easy.
We are very binary in the sense that, like, it's either yes or no. It's one or two. And we don't have more complicated emotions in that regard.
Right. And we're like, well, maybe. Will you rub my back? Can I see? Like, there generally has to be like this warm up of like, and then if I'm warmed up, I might have curiosity about it. But you can't, it's not a light switch for us. So men are the trouble because they're like, oh, but I turned on the light. And we're like, did you fold the laundry?
I feel like for us, we're bottle rockets and you guys are like diesel engines. Like we're just, and you guys got to warm up. Okay, so kind of compartmentalizing that. When men are generalizing.
Yes.
When men are the problem, what's their problem? When women are the problem, what's usually their problem?
When men are the problem, they don't talk about it. Right? If anyone walks away from this is you have to talk about it, right? What you want, what you need, what makes you feel good, what's pleasurable. That makes them the problem is because they don't know how to communicate their feelings. And when women are the issue, it's because they have no idea how to ask for help and limit the mental load.
That makes right. They're interested, but they're so distracted by other things. It's like you can't do this thing until you got all this other stuff taken care of.
Right, because they're looking at the dirty laundry on the floor. They're thinking about what the kid needs for school. They're thinking about what they're making for dinner. Who's going to get grandma this day? Like I could go on and on and on. Like it's literally a hamster wheel for most people. Most women.
I could see that, right? Like I would say that my wife and I are doing pretty well.
Yeah, okay, good.
But I would also say that I'm probably her last priority. I would understand why, like we got kids, we got work, blah, 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 blah. Right. Like I'm the last thing on that list. And for me, when it goes up, that's the only like there's no blood to operate both parts of this body. You know? So I can kind of
I could see that.
Yeah. Who seems to be able to fix it more, men or women?
Oh, that's a hard one. That is, I think it's who has capacity to put in the work at that time.
I can't tell if that's a diplomatic answer or you just don't want to say the real answer, which is
no. I really, because I've seen it in both, right? Like I have a relatively new couple where I was like, you need to listen to this whole podcast, like the whole thing. There was 10 episodes by one of my favorite authors, a sex therapist. Guy did it right away. You did it right away. And they're still trucking along as she's trucking along in the book. And they're both highly motivated. But he's now using the language that I use because he put the effort in. But then if we look at her, there's 3 children, all in different directions, all different ages, entrepreneurs, like who's running everyone to soccer, plus who's working and this. And she literally does not have the time.
I do feel like women have more pressure from more directions than men do.
I completely agree.
Our pressure is, it's work,
right?
Family.
Yep.
And we categorize all of that in the same 2 things. We don't have this, and that.
Right.
What's usually the reason people fail?
I have had several people decide to not continue their relationship in my office in the last decade. 2 of those times were due to infidelity. And then one significant was due to financial abuse. And the continued lies and another lie came out, a financial abuse lie came out in session and explosion happened. And that was the end.
Are these conversations usually heated or are they pretty calm?
Depends. And I would say a couple was during COVID, right? Like COVID was whoosh, we were very busy. I mean, I'm still very busy, but just lie after lie came out, and it tended to be very calm and sad, actually. Like just tears, just rolling, and it's just very sad.
Yeah, that has to be tough. Can you tell, are you ever surprised? Like, oh, they fixed this, or like, oh, they didn't make it. Are you ever surprised? Or do you kind of know, like, that ain't happening?
Right away, I generally am always like, I can kind of tell. I think I can tell, right? In the beginning, after, like, let's say 5 sessions, where I got a vibe. I know a little bit more of the story. I can figure it out. Like, I'm like, oh, they're going to do it. Like, they're going to actually take steps. And then every once in a while, I'm surprised where they don't make it. And I hear from one of them later. This happens pretty often, where they'll be like, can I just come talk to you? You know our whole story. And I was like, listen, like, I can never see you as a couple again. And like, we kind of figure out that dynamic just because we don't want bias. And I've been surprised before where I've been like, oh, did I miss that he was a narcissist? And sometimes I do.
This one's kind of interesting.
Oh, good.
How important are you actually? Or is it really just the process of people talking to each other?
Oh, I love that question. That's a good one.
And somebody, not to kind of take away from the profession, like somebody's got to facilitate this. But how much of it is just having someone to facilitate the conversation where it's really just these two people need to talk to each other?
I think I'm less important after the education piece. So, and it can be education about sexual health. It can be education about how to communicate effectively in a meaningful way. And once we establish those tools and they really get it, then I'm less important. Then it's them just kind of talking through what's happening. And then I'll be like, wait a second. Like, I'm more of a referee. Not because they're fighting. I'm just like, wait a second, pause. Let's try it again. And I can get them generally to hear each other. Whereas at home, you're probably not going to have that experience.
Is one person usually the right one? Not that you're biased. There's no bias. It's not necessarily the same thing. But are you usually like, okay, they're actually pretty right, and you're kind of wrong here?
Sure. Right? Like, I think because sometimes it's like we're diving deep on like one bullshit thing that happened during their week that created tension and that someone really fucked up and said something stupid. And then I'll be like, and they'll be like, I know, I shouldn't have said it like that. Like, so generally when one person is wrong, they know it already. I don't have to like wave the flag of being like, you're a fucking moron. Although I might be kind of thinking that. I'm like, oh my God, again?
Like, God dang it, Steve.
Exactly. Steve, get it together.
Right. Maybe if you didn't cheat on your wife, you wouldn't have all these problems.
Keep your dick in your pants, Steve.
It's so easy, but so hard for Steve. Poor Steve.
Steve.
He can't help. He can't be helped. But how often would you say, like, okay, if you put a percentage on it, like how often would you say, oh, one person's pretty clearly wrong in this one?
Oh, no. It's all, I mean, 80%.
Oh, that high?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because, we're not nice generally to each other, right? Like if you're fighting, someone is always in the wrong, right? Something happened, right? To activate something, right? And they did it because they weren't listening. They weren't being curious. They were being judgmental. They were being sassy, like whatever. Like anything can do that. Someone fucked up. Like, you don't fight just for funsies.
How much of sex is a power struggle?
Oh, good question. I'm just kind of thinking about my current people that I'm seeing right now. I don't think much of it is a power struggle. I only really see that, and it's more of a financial struggle if one person makes a significant amount of money and the other person doesn't.
There's such a dynamic there.
And then if they're like more, if their relationship is arranged in more of a traditional way, then there's a power struggle for sure. I don't recommend that, right? Like, she's not going to stay in the kitchen, bud. You know, like, pick up your shit.
I don't know if this applies.
Okay.
Do you watch? Like, have a couples ever been like, hey, we want you to watch us and critique? No. Is that a thing, though? Will some people do that?
So as a sex therapist, no.
You never like, nice form. Like, look,
why
you're
don't
not
you
cupping.
touch her here? Yeah.
Like, right. Like, cup the balls. You're not cupping them.
No, we can talk all about it. Like, we get into detail, right? Like, there were vibrators in my office. Like, there are toys and things, and we get into detail, but never would I watch or touch.
I don't know what I would do if somebody was like, I would like you to watch me and my wife have sex and just give us your thoughts on how I'm performing. I would almost do it out of pure curiosity to be like, well, okay, what would I say?
You know, just not ethically something I'm going to do.
Not.
Yeah, people are looking for that. Like, I've been asked. People will, not in person, but people will call.
How popular is this?
Oh, very, I would say. Very in one sense and then not in the other. People don't know about us until they have sex problems. Or they've seen, I'm trying to think of like pop culture stuff, like Meet the Fockers, right? Like I know
what you're
mom
talking
is a sex
about.
therapist. Yeah. There are there's a woman who I fangirl and love. Her name is Esther Perel, and she is a sex therapist out of New York City, and she's written a lot of books, and she is just a lover. So if you're kind of in my world, you would know, but generally people are like, I didn't even know you existed. And I'm like, yeah, here we are. There's like 600, I think last count, around 660 certified sex therapists in the United States.
There's not that. I thought you were going to have, say, 1,000 after that.
No.
There's only 660
that are certified. Right. So like anyone can call themselves a sex therapist, but I went through a very specific training and supervision and have to have continuing education credits and pay my dues and do all of that. And there's around 660 of us.
I would have thought that number was way higher.
I know, isn't that crazy?
That's like one of the rarest professions in the United States then.
It's pretty rare. Like, there's not many. I don't know how many. So I'm in Michigan, and so I don't know how many are in our state. But there are some states that I think there's like 2.
This is also another question. Can you spot couples in the wild? Can you be like, oh, they're having problems with sex?
Maybe not sex, but I can be like, wow, they're a mess. Right. I can tell like how they speak to each other immediately. Like if we're, especially at dinner, I used to be a waitress, used to be a server for 10 years. So I am always at the restaurant, like paying attention to what's happening. And I'd be like, oh, they're fighting. That's fun. Like, what's going on over there? Or you can like see really intense conversation, or even at the grocery store, just how they interact. It's fascinating. But I like to watch people in general.
Can you notice big differences between generations?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Oh, I have boomer people in my life, obviously. I'm mad at them. It's overwhelming at times how I'm like, we just talked about this last week. How come? Like, we just talked about it. It's so frustrating. And it's just a very big resistance about talking about their feelings and communicating in a meaningful way. They have a hard time doing that.
What about like Gen Xers, which I think is the slightly older than millennial generation?
Yeah, they show up pretty frequently, and I like working with them because they show up and they know that they need to do the work, right? They're like, okay, I'm not going to fuck around all of the time. Like, I'm seeing a therapist. Like most Gen Xers, and I would say elder millennials, as we're called, like they're like, okay, let's talk about our feelings. And they're just trying to do everything differently than what the boomers did.
Yeah. What about like the kids today?
I love them. They are amazing. they're very clear about what they know and what they don't know. They ask for help pretty easily, at least the kids I see, right? Like, and I don't see too many of them, but I have a handful, and I'm like, oh my God, yay. I'm like, I look at my schedule and I'm excited to talk about stuff with them.
Yeah, they're much more open about it.
Oh my God. Yes. And because they're and their way of dating is so differently. Like, so different. I mean, I met my husband in person through a friend. But I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends have met their partners through apps and online, and that world just didn't exist when I've been with my husband for 22 years. So that didn't exist for me, but this is all that they're doing. And it's a shit show out there. And to talk about it and debrief and figure out like what is going well and what's not, they're so open. They're like, oh my God, this person was totally talking to me for 3 hours on this trip. Unbeknownst to my client, wife was on the trip too. And I was like, oh shit, like, let's talk about it. Like, it's it's so great.
That's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have too many options. That, like, I got married at a time where, like, okay, you had a few options and a good number of options, but you then had to make the best out of the option that you got.
Right.
Whereas now I feel like there's too many options. Like, how could you ever pick one person?
I don't know if they will. I don't know if like marriage in the traditional sense we're used to is going to be on the up and up continuing, because they can't afford it either.
Best piece of advice to a man, best piece of advice to a woman.
I think it's so I have 2 pieces of advice, both are there, and it's for both. One is that, and this is not my original thought in any way, in any capacity, but that pleasure is how you should be measuring your time with someone else. Is it pleasurable? Pleasure is the measure. It's from Emily Nagoski, I believe. I'm not sure if she coined it or if someone before her did, but that's how we should be looking at any kind of erotic, intimate connection with someone. Was it pleasurable? We're not measuring it by orgasm. We're not measuring it by how long. We're not measuring it by anything else, just that it was pleasurable. The second piece of advice is always use lube. Lube makes everything better. For the love of God, use lube. I literally have some behind me. We have literal bowls in my office because I want you to use lube.
Are people stubborn? Like stupidly stubborn? Just like, I'm not going to do it. The good Lord intended if he made lube, he would have put it in my hand. Are people stubborn about it?
Yeah, they are, because by the time they've reached my office, right, they're in distress. And they're like, but I don't want to change, but I'm here, but I don't want to change, but I'm here. So it can be, but it's being open and curious. I know I've said that a few times, that will help you. And some people are like, well, I don't need lube yet. I'm like, just take a sample. You might need it.
Just take the lube.
It's free. Like, and it's good shit. Like, we get the good stuff at our office. So
what's the good stuff called?
The good stuff that we like Uber Lube. That's I'll show you a little, and it's a pretty bottle,
Uber Lube. That's a great
Uber
name.
Lube, silicone based. We love that. Good Clean Love. We like a lot. Sliquid. Slippery Stuff. I know they have the best names.
They really do.
I would say don't buy anything at the drugstore or like the grocery store. The only thing that I have seen that I would recommend at the is Good Clean Love. You can buy that there. But want to look stuff with clean ingredients. You can always use coconut oil if you're not allergic to coconuts. If you are, don't put that in your vulva or on your penis.
Wouldn't it just make it bigger?
Oh my God, I am sure someone has done that.
Someone has done that.
10,000%
chance someone has done that.
Yeah, I hope they write in.
I hope they do too. Do you ever see people that just they just do not have it? They do not have a sex drive.
Yes. And that's sometimes that's why they come to me. It's because they're in a relationship and they have literally no desire. Like none, no curiosity. They don't self-pleasure. They don't have sex with their partner. there's nothing erotic about them at all. And so that's a deep dive. Like, then we really got to get into things of externally what's happening, physically what's happening. Has there been any trauma? All of that has to be explored.
Does it ever, though, get down to, like, you just don't have it?
Yeah, I mean, it can. I've not experienced that. It can be a thing for sure. And as long as that person is okay, right, that they're secure in themselves and they're like, hey, this is just where I am.
This is who I am.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Then I will support that for sure.
What do you do for people with mismatched libidos?
So we call that desire discrepancy. Right.
It's got a fancy term. So
that is very
common. That is very common, then, I take it.
Super common, right? Like, usually, and in heteronormative relationships, it tends to be, not always, but tends to be the man has a higher drive and curiosity for sex than the woman. So we find a middle ground, right? Like, bro, you're not going to have sex 3 times a day. Not happening. But maybe you can have sex 2 times a week, right? So, because if she wants none and you want it 50 times, we got to find a middle ground, right? And then what's also preventing that partner from even thinking about it? So we all have inhibitions that stop that, and we have exciters that get us going. And so it's trying to figure out, if you think about your body as like a gas and a brake, we all have gas and brakes. How can we lift the brake for whoever doesn't have a lot of desire?
What do you do if somebody is like, they're into something that the other person just isn't into? And the only example I can think of is because they're sitting next to me. I love to have sex on snow globes, and my wife has no desire about having sex on snow globes. Right? Like, what do you do if somebody's into something and that is just not my jam?
We talk about it. Like, I know that seems like a simple answer, but it's, what is it about the snow globes that are so exciting to you? And because most of the time they haven't discussed it. It's like, hey, I want to have sex in the snow globe room. And she's like, fuck off. Right? She's like, that room is terrifying. And so we talk about it first and find what's the meaning? What is erotic about that? Is there a way to bring the other partner in? So could they just watch? Could they help them pleasure if they don't want to have sex? Could it be we bring one snow globe into the bedroom? We find a workaround. And if it's really just a hot no, then you're going to have to self-pleasure with the snow globes by yourself.
Snow globes was such a great and terrible example of it. Like,
really
God, that's what you picked? Snow globes? Like, that's what's right there. That's all I can think of. That's pretty much all the questions we got. You think we missed anything? Awesome. Anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we covered a lot of ground, so that was fun.
How can people kind of get a hold of you to learn more?
Yeah, people can get a hold of me. I am on Instagram pretty frequently. My handle there is SX. Shit, what is it? No, S. I had to change it. I'm telling you because Instagram does not like the word sex. So I can't put sex in anything. So it's SWSX therapy. I can also, maybe you can put it in the show notes. I'll send it over to you. Yeah. And then I have 2 websites. So one is for therapy in Michigan, which is sarahwatsonlpc.com. And then I do coaching, speaking, education, sex education. And that is called simplesexeducation.com. That's where you can find me.